is up? It is Dave. It is Duncan back from Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Norwegian blackened punks Kvelertak. The band's new album, Endling, will be released on September 8th via Rise Records and Petroleum Records. Your favourite punked up, black metal adjacent, classic rock worshipping Norwegian group, Kvelertak.
They are my favourite. That statement's accurate.
Absolutely. Their new album, Endling, meaning the last individual of a species, is album number 5. Follows up 2020's Split. Thematically, the album Endling continues on the path of 2020's critically acclaimed Split by delving further into local lore and legends. Guitarist Vidar sums it up best, stating, "On Endling, we tell the stories of the extinct and dying men and women of Norway. Old and new myths, culture, and rituals come to life. The folklore that doesn't fit a TV series concept. Vikings and trolls are for television. This is the real deal." The band tracked most of the songs live in the studio, and only one to a click track, resulting in a raw and organic feel. The riffs and tones are as varied as Kvelertak's audience will expect, with crackling immediacy and spirit throughout. There's also new instrumentation, like piano and synthesizer, layered via overdubs. Endling is at once the band's most straightforward and ambitious work yet. They hashed out the new songs in a hole-in-the-wall biker club where the owner's 16-year-old blind border collie would crap on the floor each morning before they rehearsed. Kvelertak made most of their records with Converge guitarist and producer Kurt Ballou at the helm. However, COVID restrictions prevented the band from travelling to America at this time.
You don't need America when you've got a blind collie.
Fuck them. So Landa and the band made Endling in Norway. Like the almost legendary triple guitar attack of the band, Endling boasts the talents of 3 producers. Yep. 3 producers whose names I am probably going to butcher right now, but let's do it.
This is going to be my favourite bit of this is going to be the most played bit on YouTube. You know, you can dig into that algorithm. This just section here, it's just been me watching it all and going, I can't believe I fucking said that.
Jorgen Preen, Yngve Setre, and Ivar Sandoy.
Are you sure you're Greek? I think that you might be Norwegian.
Could be. Each of them accomplished as producers and musicians themselves. I think Ivar is the enslaved drummer, maybe. You wonder why we need 3 producers, Nicolaisen explains. I'm telling you...
I wasn't, but now I am.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the mood in the room is always very intense, and sometimes even violent when it comes to Kvelertak. The producers each need to take a break once in a while. We're too much to handle for just one person. There we go.
Tried that excuse with my wife and she almost divorced me.
Nice try. Okay, so you are probably the bigger Kvelertak fan of both of us. I dabble in Kvelertak.
Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's have a therapy session right at the start. What's your issue with the band? What's your beef?
No beef. It just took me a while. I'll explain when I get into my review. I'll explain.
Oh, more. You'll explain, will you?
I'll explain.
See
more.
If I don't get a good explanation. Fuck you, Dave.
It's not a great explanation, but
well, that's shite then, isn't it?
Basically just that the first couple of albums didn't really get into them first hand. Listening to them first time, I was like, yeah, not bad. There was a particular album that then got me into the band. Ooh. And then got me into those albums that I wasn't really sure on before. But I'll get more into that. Anyway, I'm going to let you start because I know you're a committed Kvelertak fan, got the tattoo, all that sort of stuff. So I'm interested to hear what did you make of this new one from Kvelertak?
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. I do actually have an owl head with antlers right there, but that I swear to God was before Kvelertak were a band. So I just want to stress that when he said that, I don't think that's what he meant. But yeah, right on the wrist. Right. Little owl antlers. Why not? When in Rome. I mean, when you're young, you've got money, you've got friends that are tattoo artists. Get an L Antlers.
Of course you
I mean, why not? So yeah, I didn't even know these guys had an album coming out this year.
Oh.
Which, when that single dropped, the first single anyway, dropped like a couple of months ago, which is the opening song, but it was an edited version. It was like the single version of it, so it chopped out the 3.5 minute intro, which I just put the 3.5 minute intro there, just like keep it in there. The thing I love about this band more than anything is where other bands would separate tracks out and say, this is the instrumental, this is the little instrument bit, and then here's the track. They never do that. They're like, no, that's part of the song. And I love that bit. Yeah, I've been in with the bricks with this band now for a long time, and I can't explain necessarily why. I think my enduring memory of them kind of early on was the visual images of them in magazines, with the singer with the fucking antler owl head thing on stage just going, that looks nuts. But at their best, Kvelertak, what they do maybe better than any band is they give you a ton of sims that sound recognisable. Like things where you can point to an era, a band, a style, and they, I would say, seamlessly merge them in the best possible way. And the opening track is a great example of that. You get everything from proper kind of smoky retro 70s vibes right through kind of more kind of snarly 80s vibes, but with like big 90s hooks in it. It's so well crafted together. Endling was always going to be an interesting watch for me. I really liked their previous album. The album before that I fucking loved, right? So, like, for me, they've been getting exponentially better every release, more confident, more refined, but not more polished, which is what I love about them. The songwriting is much better album on album, but they've never released an album where I'm like, so it's not like when Mastodon released Crack the Sky and you're like, the production sounds fucking huge on this, what the fuck happened? Whereas my Blood Mountain people, like that just sounds huge. Kvelertak have never done that before. They've kind of always retained a very kind of seamless sound between albums. It's quite surprising. This album is killer for me. I absolutely love it. I think it basically takes the previous two albums, which I was very much in love with, and it's like this sinuous tissue between both those albums. So you get a lot of the kind of bigger, more memorable hooks from the previous album, and a lot more of that kind of 70s punky / black metal-y punky vibes from the album before that in there, with pepperings of the stuff they did before. Now you'll notice there's a reason I'm missing names out, because I, unlike Dave, will not make a cunt of myself on this recording by trying to pronounce fuck all. So it will be track numbers and no content. I'm saying the band's name deliberately quick, just so YouTube can't even begin to try and work out what I actually said. So it's Kvelertak. That's what I said. See how quick I am there? Fucking nunchucks and ninja stars. There's just when you think you've got a handle on these guys, they mix things up quite a bit. On this album in particular, tracks will want to go a bit longer, which they've always done before, but I felt on this album they really let stuff just like push out. Like every second track almost feels like it's got a bit more depth and a bit more length to it. Like a good dickin', Dave. So like a satisfying dickin', Dave. But
right.
I did pick out specifically the kind of, for they're saying keyboards. I thought at parts it was organ, but they're saying that's what they use. So I picked it kind of bolstering up the guitar sound a little bit in places. Track 5 out of nowhere just gives you a little bluegrass banjo for shits and giggles. Fucking works. But they have these elements of where they give you kind of almost 80s kind of speed rock and punk, and this blackened element that isn't like any there's a lot of bands that try and emulate this band, a lot of them from this part of the world, and we've reviewed a few albums in the last couple of years where we're like, they're from Norway. They say they're not influenced by Kvelertak, and we're listening to them going, don't believe them. On this one, the blackened element is more just on those short, sharp passages of like fast drumming and guitar work than it is necessarily on any other influence. They don't play blackened riffs. They don't do black metal vocals either. It's more, there's a rawness and intensity in parts themselves that actually lean more towards that as a blackened influence as opposed to being black metal or adjacent. The punk elements in this are bitching, and they keep them in the pocket really, really well. So you get these kind of 70s, kind of almost kind of the boys are back in town sort of riffs like that come in, and then out of nowhere, just a savage sharp punk stab. Weirdly, the first 5 songs on this one have like a kind of really powerful, intense, in-your-face kind of longer form juggernaut sort of tempo about them. And then the title track, Endling, kicks in, which is like a very commercial song from the band. The track that comes after that's one of their singles as well, which is also acclimated to being a bit more commercially sounding. And then you swing into Paranoia 297, can pronounce that because it's in English. Switches into that, which is once again shorter form, more direct. And then you get Svart September. Which has like it starts with like a kind of quiet acoustic-y sort of, or a kind of folky sound before it moves into the direction it's going. And then Modlet, which is the closing track as well. The back half of the album feels like there's a shift. So if you're like, the front half of the album delivers, I think, all the intensity and all the hooks to get you in. And the back half of the album just really settles things out in a really satisfying way. And it was about my third listen through that I really started to appreciate that kind of switch post Endling on. These guys don't sing in English, right?
No.
So, which we'll get to you because you have a weird phobia of bands that don't sing in the English tongue. See, when the choruses come in, you get those gang vocals. I don't care what they're singing. I'm like, you know, just like fucking full in gibberish, like baby gibberish, like, and I don't care because these guys know how to write a fucking earworm hook, and it's like everything just feels alive and vibrant and kind of like the coolest 70s party you were never invited to. Like, I don't, as weird, like, and it just holds up for me, like on repeat listens. I'm a bit of a mark for these guys. They kind of have me in the pocket. Like, there are moments where they do stuff which reminds me a little bit more of a kind of Norwegian The Bronx. Like, they'll throw in there out of nowhere. There's bits that sound like that Scandinavian kind of indie rock thing of something like the Hives. They have those elements that come in there as well.
Yeah.
But they add it with just like an intensity and a ferocity that I can't switch off. I've never seen them live.
Oh, right.
And I get the feeling that they will probably tour this album. And I would love to see them live. I've seen live footage of them and it always looks like the fucking craziest show. And like listening to the album, they're saying obviously they tracked it all in with one song on a click, but it was live recorded and all the rest. I kind of think that's how a band like this should record.
Yeah.
You get everything is energy, everything is vibe. Yes, there are moments which maybe aren't synced up and 100% perfect, but the genres of music and the eras of music that they are clearly influenced by didn't have that as a luxury. So I think it actually, if anything, adds more to the authenticity of it. I love the run length. I love the track ordering. I think this is once again like a big giant fucking rusty nail in the coffin of people that doubt this band and think they're gimmicky. Like, look at the bands that are trying to copy them now, of which there are loads. I think they are trend setting. I think they've tapped into something that is on the forefront of like a really interesting amalgam of different things, and I'm here for all of it. I think this album's fucking great. I was so happy. It was everything I wanted. And we heard the single months ago, and when that first single came in, which is a shortened version of the opening track, like I mentioned, it's the poppier part of it. It's the more commercial side of it that did make me think, where are we going with this? And then having listened to it, the whole context of that song, this band teases you with 3 false starts in the opening song, and then when the song finally kicks in, you're like, and that's the other thing about them. Riffs for days, like riffs come from all different angles, and all of them are fucking bitching. This is absolutely fucking great. I am over the moon they're back. I'm over the moon that they're not compromising, like, at all, and they are still one of the most unique bands out there. Like, they march to the beat of their own drum, and I continue to hope that they do so.
Excellent.
So, Dave, why do you hate Kvelertak?
I don't hate Kvelertak.
There was a point whenever I mentioned them, you did this face.
Yeah, the self-titled, and then Mayor. I tried, and I was just like, I don't get this. Like, I'm just not feeling it at all. And when people were mentioning them, like how great it was, I was just like, yeah, cool. Not for me. So when 2016's Natisverd came out,
such a good album.
That was for me. That was a kind of turning point. I found that the hooks on that album were probably the most infectious that I'd heard from the band, and I got really into that album. And it actually made me go back and re-listen to Mayor, which I thought was okay in first listen, but then I enjoyed it so much more after hearing Natisverd. I
can't help but I'm just checking through my text messages from around 2016, and I can't see an apology text, Dave. That's kind of interesting that there. Sorry, Duncan, I was wrong. You were right. Can't seem to.
It's a very good album. It's a very good album.
Didn't happen. Weird.
I thought Split was okay.
I don't think it's as good as the previous album. I'll give you that.
I think it has some really good moments. I found it a little on the long side for me personally. I felt like there is some tracks kind of drag on a little bit, and maybe it just maybe wasn't quite as memorable as Natisverd for me. This one is 10 tracks. It clocks in around 51 minutes, so it's somewhere in between the lengths of Natisverd and Split. But I think musically this album fits into the Kvelertak back catalogue very well. It's got all the hallmarks that you'd expect from a Kvelertak album. As you said, you've got the punk rock drive, you've got the classic rock licks with the lead harmonies, the blackened streak running through certain tracks, and that kind of dual combo of raspy vocals, giving everything a bit of, that kind of punk intensity, but also being able to switch into something a bit easier on the ear to give it a bit of a hook. And I think that opening track is a great example of that. It's very hooky in the choruses, but the verses have that kind of venomous side that it keeps your foot's kind of stomping along to it. They also throw in some piano throughout that track, which gave it this kind of like retro kind of rock and roll kind of vibe. But then they follow up with Fredref Cult, which
I love that you are just like committing to this review.
Fucking yes,
do it.
Absolutely. And that track goes a little bit darker. There's some more minor chords in there, and it leans a little bit deeper into that kind of blackened side. It still has like melody, but it's a little bit more kind of suppressed. It's just kind of slightly buried beneath. That you get a bit of that on Kvelertak material. It doesn't really come with, for me, it didn't really come with the kind of hooks as much as the opener did. I liked it, but I liked the fact they changed up the tone a little bit. But if I'm totally honest, afterwards the track was kind of gone from my head. It didn't really kind of stay with me afterwards. However, what I will say is the tracks that I did like on this album far outweighed the ones that I didn't. And those tracks that I disliked, those tracks I didn't dislike, I think they just didn't leave me wanting to kind of to play them again. There's some absolute highlights on this album, though, where the band pull out all the stops and make sure you're left with a real kind of memorable moment. Tracks like Lick Vok which has some really cool guitar hooks. You've got that, the classic rock vibes. There's also some nice kind of layered up vocals to emphasize the chorus. A wee bit of the Ghost vibe in there, not gonna lie. Just in the
I've never heard of this band.
Just in the kind of feel, it had that kind of grandiose feel. Then you've got that like kind of hillbilly banjo loving vibe on fucking
Out of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Like out of right, I understand there's three guitarists, right? But like one of them's like that. Guys. Banjo.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I don't know, he's like,
yeah, it's cool. It's
totally fucking works.
Something
totally
new,
works.
something
Why
fresh. It's also scattered with some of these kind of like almost like mid-paced blast beats in there as well. You've got synths in there, kind of layered harmonies, and there's some really kind of cool like straight kind of four to the floor kind of hardcore kind of punk grooves in there as well. I really like the kind of cleaner vocal delivery on the title track.
It's the one to me that really stands out as the track that's not like the others.
Yeah.
Like has that sound, but it's the one that's focused on this is a single.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I mean,
yep. It's also kind of laced with these like 70s-esque kind of rock solos as well. It's got quite an epic kind of feel. The only thing is, I think sometimes I feel like they maybe overuse the guitar harmony thing maybe a little bit.
there's three guitarists.
I know, I understand
This
that.
isn't Distant here where they all play exactly the same fucking chords, right? This is three guitarists all enjoying their own space.
I know.
How dare you judge musicians for playing music?
I appreciate there's three of them. I just feel like sometimes it starts to get a little bit predictable. And like, oh, here's the guitar harmony again, excellent. And it's cool. I'm not going to lie, it's cool. A little bit overused. I really like Skoganger.
That's totally not how you pronounce that. I love everything that's happening here.
The guitar melody on that is really catchy. There's a really cool tempo switch towards the end of the track as well, which works really well, kind of keeps you on your toes. And the closing track again had some really good clean melodies in the chorus that kind of break up the track. But there's also some kind of like proggier kind of leanings in that track as well, which I quite enjoyed. The guitar work was definitely a bit more experimental. The drumming as well, a bit more kind of freestyle. But they didn't like put too much of that into the track that it sounds out of place. There was still, a nice amount of the kind of Kvelertak traits in there to make it feel like part of the album. In terms of the actual band on the album, I think they sound the best they've sounded in terms of how tight and accomplished this sounds. There is a definite confidence on this one that came across massively on the album. Whether that's to do with them recording more of a kind of live setup, I'm not sure, but it feels very much like they've put their kind of heart and soul into this one. I want to just quickly mention the production because a lot of people, from what I gathered online, a lot of people kind of spat the dummy out when That Is Fair came out because the production of that album was a bit different to the first two albums. And I say, how fucking dare you disrespect the Baloo in that way? That is just...
But I also think that's such a fucking stupid thing. Like, sorry people out there, like, if you work with someone different, you're going to have a different sound. Like no one goes to, you know what, I'm going to go at Kurt Blue and I'm going to force him to make me sound like what that other guy, because like I could have went to him, but I said no. I'm going to go to Kurt Blue and I'm going to get Kurt Blue to copy that sound.
Yeah.
It's such a stupid argument.
I really like the production of that album.
It's fucking amazing.
Splid was maybe slightly more polished than that. And this album feels like kind of like a bit of both. It's got
it's a kind of weird compromise. That's why I said, like, see when I was talking about like sinuous tissue that joins, that's what I mean. Like, it's not as different, but if you went album that I can't pronounce into this album, then into album that I can't pronounce, the jump isn't as jarring.
I feel like it's got a bit of kind of dirt through it, but it's also got some of that warmth that Splid had. It's always very natural sounding, to be honest. They're quite earthy sounding productions you get in a Kvelertak album, which suits their sound. But I think on this one, I think the punkier and kind of more kind of blackened moments in particular sound great on this, because it has that kind of punch, but also some nice kind of gritty tones in there as well. I think like how does this stand up against their back catalogue? I prefer this to Split. I think the variation on this one is much more noticeable. I like the little bits of experimentation on this, the addition of piano, acoustic guitars. I've got the synths that definitely open up the sound a bit more. And there's some really good tempo shifts throughout the album to keep or to help distinguish each track. And vocally, I think it's as varied as a Kvelertak album could be. I think he's ticking all the boxes in terms of the styles and the textures. I don't I don't mind bands that sing in their native tongue when.
This is you have changed. You're flip flopping.
Hold on.
No.
Hold.
No.
Just listen. When it's used more as a layer of intensity or adding a percussive impact. When it's done like this with actual singing parts and proper choruses, I'm not going to lie, personally, I do have a bit of a disconnect with it because I have no idea what the tracks are about. So there is a level of emotion that I'm probably not fully getting without, that extra level of understanding.
Big Davey Brexit strikes again.
that's just me. Personally, I connect with it more if I know what the song's about or what he's singing about, and I didn't really get that. We didn't get any lyrics with the album either, so I have no idea. As a whole, though, it's an enjoyable release. Not as good as Nattesvärd. Mer's really grown on me as well. I really like that album. But for me, I think on this one, there's at least 7 of the 10 tracks I really enjoyed. There was a few passed by, maybe didn't really leave a huge impact on me, but for the most part, yeah, I enjoyed this one. Okay, so scores for Endling, Duncan. What are you going to score this one?
4.5.
4.5.
I think this is fucking great. I think it's fire. Absolute fire. Very much like yourself, my favourite album is the one that's 2 albums before this that you once again mention at some point.
Nattesvärd.
I will assume it's pronounced right. I don't know. Who knows at this point? That's my favourite album they've done. Yeah. I would probably sit this comfortably as my second favourite album they've done. I think this is that merge between something a little bit more commercial and a little bit more refined, but at the same time all the snarl and grit and spit that their back catalogue, the discography is full of.
Yeah.
This sounds huge, and I'm so happy they're back doing what they do. Like I said before, like there ain't many bands that sound like this as good as this. There's plenty of bands that try and sound like this that ain't this. So 4.5. Yeah. What about yourself, Dave?
I'm going to go 4 out of 5. I'm going to go 4 out of 5.
Seems a 0.5 low.
I like the variation. Different instrumentation is cool. Like I really hope they continue to use the synths going forward. I think they were a huge.
I want more banjo. I want a bluegrass album.
More banjo. I think they sound even bigger with the synths, more atmosphere. It's cool. It's a good overall mix of that Kvelertak sound that we know and love. And there's no like massive surprises on it, but it's there's enough to keep you interested throughout the album. Absolutely. So I'm going to go 4 out of 5 on this one from Kvelertak. So this one drops on September 8th on Rise Records and Petroleum Records. I'll put some links below to the band, to the pre-order. Check it out. Let us know what you think. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.